Hey, this is artist Yog Joshi. Today I would like to talk about this nighttime city painting. And also for a small fee you can gain access to the Photoshop file and a slowed down version of this video with a runtime of about 2 to 3 hours. So if you would like to follow along with this video or get a deeper look at what I'm doing, you're free to download that. I'll leave a link down below and let's get started. So here we're starting off with the sketch. I didn't like the composition of the first one, so I scratched it. I decided to go with the second iteration. And sometimes I'll make numerous sketches until I find something that I like. I'm working with a gray toned background simply because it's easier on my eyes, whereas a white background causes eye strain. So here I'm putting down saturated blue tones as a base for the night sky, and even including some greener blues as we get closer to the moon. And that moon I'll actually get rid of later on. I felt like it was a distraction. But the reason why the night sky shifts more towards teal or green as we get closer to the moon is because the moon is a warm light source and it has a kind of a yellowish tint to it. So what do we get whenever we mix blue with yellow? That's right, we get green. Next time you're outside during the nighttime, take a look up and observe it yourself. You'll see the sky is very vibrant and has a lot of shifts in color. Here I'm placing the foreground at a higher elevation to create the illusion that we're looking down at the scenery. And the overlapping of the foreground trees with the midground helps to create this feeling of depth. The same goes with the contrast and values between the two grounds. And as far as perspective goes, I wish I planned it out more. So the only thing that was established was the horizon, which is a little below the center of the image. So here I'm establishing little dabs of city lights to arouse some emotions, which in turn will propel more inspiration and ideas. Also, I can't contain myself when it comes to painting in the lights. It's so much fun that I get a little impatient and start a little bit early. It's my favorite part to paint. For the most part, at this phase, I'm playing around with all the layers, adjusting the shapes, colors, and values. And generally, when I'm working on a personal piece, I don't like everything to be set in stone from the beginning. When painting a scene like this, I intentionally start with a very rough and messy drawing because I know I will paint over those lines later on. Also, this is a space where I prefer to explore and let the painting unfold on its own. Us digital artists have an advantage when it comes to exploring our work, as we can easily hop in between layers, move things around, and adjust the drawing and colors, saving us so much time. So we should fully take advantage of this and explore with liberty. However, I wouldn't advise this for client work. In that case, it would be better to work in a more structured manner, so the client has a clear idea of what direction you're headed in. So this environment was inspired by my trip to India last year. I visited a very beautiful city called Haridwar, which is located in the northern states of Uttarakhand. And the city is known for the holy Ganga River, which originates from the foothills of the Himalayan mountains, making this river one of the most famous pilgrimage grounds for Hindus. And this ancient city is filled with hundreds of temples and statues of Hindu idols. Thus, I was inspired to draw a massive statue of the god Shiva placed in the heart of the city. Whenever possible, try to pull inspiration from your real-life experiences. This will make the artwork more personal to you, thus making it unique. Again, as a reminder, if you would like to download the Photoshop file and a slowed down version of this video, you can find a link down below. And if you're enjoying this video so far, please make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel and tick the little bell so you can stay up to date with new videos. Hey, it's the next day. So you can see I didn't finish my painting in one session. It took me about like 9 hours to make in total. I also got my hood up to cover my messy sleep hair. Didn't want to show you guys, so that's why I'm hooded up. But you know, it also makes me feel like a fighter, like a boxer. I'm ready to fight, ready to tackle this painting. The foreground trees felt too tiny, so now I'm drawing bigger tree silhouettes closer to the viewer. This will help show a bigger contrast between the foreground and background, creating more depth and perspective. And in the bottom right midground, I'm introducing some warm orange colored glow from the lights. Since the foreground overlapping that area is cool in color temperature, adding hints of warm color to the midground will help create contrast between the two grounds, and also give a more interesting color palette. And you'll see this being repeated in other parts of the painting. Also note that the lights that are closer to us are more orange, and the lights further in distance are more yellow. So here I'm refining the shapes of the hills, bringing in harder edges, softening where it's needed, and just adding more detail. And I'm also working on that river. And now I'm brightening up the background mountains to create more contrast. And now I'm punching up the saturation of the sky. I really want those blues to stand out. I scaled down the size of the Shiva statue. It felt a little bit too big. From far away, I think most people would interpret this statue as being Buddha. For that reason, later on I'll replace it with a new one and push this one further back into the background. I'm adding more layers of hills to create a further sense of depth. I removed the two mountains in the background to create more breathing room within the composition. This negative space is an important element because it allows the eyes to rest, otherwise the viewer will feel overwhelmed with details. In this painting, the two major areas of negative space are the body of sky and river. And when possible, try to simplify things in your artwork. Take a look at some of your favorite artists. You'll see that many of the elements that make up their work are actually very simple in nature. In theory, this process of simplification sounds easy to do, but it's much harder in execution because it forces the artist to think with more intention and to only show the most important details. Maybe I'll make a video on this subject matter and show some examples. With intention, I decided to place a bridge crossing over the river. Compositionally, this will help lead the eye from the left hill towards our main focal point on the right. Temporarily, I made the layer with the statue invisible. I wasn't really sure at this point if I wanted to keep it, so I turned it off and I was just working on the painting without it. But shortly after, I decided to keep the statue. Now I'm putting in more lights in the main focal zone. At this point, I will move the statue further in the back and introduce a new statue that looks more like Shiva. So here I'm working on the drawing, trying to create something more visually appealing and something that reads from far away. And now I'm blocking in the overall silhouette. Here the figure is being lit with warm underlighting. Notice that only the underside of the forms are catching the light. The contrast between the cool blues and warm lights will really make the statue stand out. And due to the moonlight, we are also getting some rim lighting on the top left sides of the structure. If you have made it this far into the video, I would like to share that I'm in the process of making a Patreon page. All supporters could get such things like early access to my videos, source files like Photoshop, Procreate, and others, notes and process images, and exclusive or extended time videos, and possibly brushes in the future once I make them. So if you'd like to support this channel and the creation of more videos, you can visit the link down below. And now I will spend some time working on the drawing and refining the shapes, and really bringing out the lights so that it reads clearly. Here I'm going in with a lasso tool and cutting out another hill. This will show more layering and make it look less flat. And to show a clearer separation, the overlapping hill has harder and darker edges at the top, and the hill behind is softer and brighter in value. So you can see this will make the forms read a lot more clearly and also create a sense of depth. The right side was feeling empty, so I duplicated the right foreground tree and made it much bigger, and this will serve as a border and help the viewer stay contained within the image. Also notice that I blurred the edges of the foreground trees to help bring more attention to the focal point. And again, here we are cutting out another layer of hill with the lasso tool. The shapes of the mid-ground hills were looking too similar on the left and right hand side, making things too calculated and thus feeling less natural. In most cases when working with environments, try to avoid such symmetry. So here I am extending the left hill inward and altering the shapes to make it feel different from the right side. On the left hand side I'm opening up the river. There was a hill in front of it before, but it felt like it was unnecessary and it really wasn't doing too much. Now the foreground trees on the left side are reading more clearly. When you see my canvas go black and white, I'm simply doing that to do a value check, to make sure all the values are reading correctly. You can see that I flip the canvas a lot and sometimes even rotate it. This is so I can get a fresh look at it and point out mistakes and see what's working within the image. To save time, I duplicated the lights from the right and moved them to the left hill. And to make the duplicate look different, I flipped it horizontally and removed and added some lights. And you can see I did the same in other parts of the painting. Now I'm going in with a soft airbrush and adding hints of glow around the Shiva statue to make it feel more mystical and majestic. And the same is being done with the city lights at the base of the hill. And to brighten the city lights, I would either use a color dodge or screen adjustment layer. Here I'm adding another overlapping hill to make the statue feel like it's further inland. Again, adding more layers will help heighten the sense of depth. I wanted to unify everything together by placing a texture over the painting. So here I'm drawing some vertical lines which I'll duplicate multiple times until the canvas is filled. Then I'll set the layers to overlay mode and turn down the opacity and erase out some of the areas, making the texture very subtle. Honestly, I don't know how to feel about this texture. I think it's because the vertical strokes lack variety and thickness, making it feel less painterly. The texture makes it look like a cheap print, and I probably could have executed it better. For the last part of this painting, I would like to apologize for not remembering to hit the record button. But don't worry, you didn't miss much. The image was feeling a little dull, so I created more contrast by making things more flashy and vibrant. Basically, I use the adjustment layers to make changes in the color temperature, saturation, and value. So my friends, that brings this tutorial to an end. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it helpful. And don't forget to hit the like button, and also please make sure to subscribe to my channel and tick the little bell so you can be notified when I put out new videos. See you guys soon.